Are you tired of sifting through endless health advice that promises quick fixes but delivers nothing but frustration? Welcome to the Anti-Macro Podcast, the go-to place for scientifically backed yet digestible health and fitness wisdom without the fads or gimmicks. Whether you're looking to ditch chronic dieting, optimize your hormone and gut health, or simply find balance in your wellness journey, you're in the right place. I'm Coach Diana Lee, your no-nonsense guide to transforming your health and mindset for the better. Each episode, I'll dive into topics ranging from nutrition basics to debunking common myths to cutting-edge functional health insights, sometimes featuring guest experts in the space. Get ready to learn, grow, and take actionable steps toward a healthier and happier you. So grab your favorite beverage, kick back, and let's dive in. Welcome on the podcast. I love having my clients on the podcast. Introducing my client, Lynelle, who I've been working with for, I think we're at over a year now, but yeah, it's crazy. Time flies when we're having so much fun. But I want you to start by just telling people who you are. Like, tell them a little bit about yourself, your personal life based on what you want to share, but just let them get to know you a little bit.
Yeah. So let's see. I'm about to turn 34 and I have 2 kids. So that's been a big part of this whole journey. I have a 2.5-year-old and a 4-year-old. I am married. I live in Connecticut and I work from home all day long in marketing. So I'm at my computer all day. Do you want me to get into like my journey with health and all of that?
Yeah, why don't we kick that off? Because obviously that's why we're here. So
Yeah.
share your journey up until when we worked together. Really, like, let's paint the story of your background and what was your history with dieting and health and all that.
Yes. So I mean, it's like weight. I've always struggled with weight, and I was really athletic in high school and kind of like I felt like I could just eat whatever I wanted. I was just like always lean. And so that was helpful. And then college I wasn't working out as much. I wasn't in sports. So I struggled a lot with just kind of like eating and binge drinking in college and like that whole scene. And post college, I was trying to figure out what to do because I'd gained some extra weight, and I'm like, okay, what is something I can look into? At the time, Weight Watchers was really big. So I joined Weight Watchers, lost a ton of weight doing that for my wedding too. So it was like perfect timing. I was like working out all the time because I had all this free time to work out for 3 hours a day. And then afterwards, after I stopped doing it, I gained like all the weight back, as I've learned that most diets is the way it works. So I kind of like struggled for a while, like back and forth, like yo-yo weight, kind of like working out was a little iffy. I had 2 pregnancies, so gained weight from that. And then after I had my son, I tried doing like the keto diet and lost a ton of weight doing that, but I was like pretty miserable doing it. I kept telling people like it was very effective. I was losing like crazy weight very quickly, but it was not fun. Like I was just restricting so much. I love carbs. So for me, I was like, this sucks and I'm miserable, but I reached like a weight I was happy with. And then of course I like gained it all back, no surprise. And then I just dealt with a lot of like issues, kind of sustaining a workout program, because with kids, it's, as we've talked about quite a bit, like especially young kids, it was hard to find like that time and motivation, and like they were getting sick all the time. I was getting sick all the time. So which led me to, I was just kind of like casually chatting with someone who's in the workout space, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm working with a nutrition like health coach. I'm like, what is that? I've never heard of that. And they showed me the person and I was like, this is really cool. And so I started like looking up similar types of people, and that's how I found you. Like I was just clicking random like Instagram accounts, and then I found you and I was like, I love your content, you're so cool. And I think at the time your like tagline was that you work with like type A perfectionists. I think you've since like evolved it, but I was like, that's me. I can relate to that. And yeah, that's kind of how we got connected. And I was like, all right, I'm finally ready to like do this for real and not just like do another crash diet, because I knew it worked really effectively like when I followed those 2 plans, but then obviously gained the weight back. So yeah, that's what led me. All roads lead to you.
I love that you found me on Instagram. First of all, I'm like, whoo,
Yeah,
it's working.
right. I know all
And
the
yeah,
upgrades,
I love
right?
I love type A overachievers. I really do. So I'm attracting all of that energy. So looking back at what you've done, I mean, first of all, your story is so incredibly relatable, right? I've worked with numerous women who were previously athletes who were able to eat kind of whatever they wanted and get away with it. College, naturally, right? We all talk about the freshman 15 and how the binge drinking really adds on the pounds. And then usually that kickstarts many women's journeys because all of a sudden they're not in athletics. They can't get away with everything that they used to be able to get away with and then some. And so you went down a very traditional path. Weight Watchers is huge. Lots of people use Weight Watchers and keto and whatnot. And it's not to say that these things are all bad. So, were there any aspects of these journeys that you felt like started pushing you in the right direction? What were some of the things that you at least learned that were helpful to you at the time?
Yeah, I think with the keto one, to be honest, I don't know if I learned much other than actually with keto. I think what I did learn was the importance of protein because it really like that protein and vegetables is all you could pretty much eat. So I did learn the importance of maintaining protein throughout the day. With Weight Watchers, it definitely, the system has changed and I don't even know if it exists anymore, to be honest. But when I was doing it, it kind of like gave me a structure to follow that did allow and it did reward certain choices like eating more vegetables, eating more protein, eating more fiber. So that was really helpful, but I kind of learned in that process to find ways, and with both of these we've talked about this before, with both programs I still kind of found cheat codes with like all of them to still eat like a lot of processed foods and just things that weren't necessarily great, but I did like encourage some healthy eating habits that now I can still implement too.
Yeah, that's what I find frustrating because I think to a degree, Weight Watchers, it has something, right? I mean, they've been around forever and they've been doing this. And I do think that in some aspects, they do encourage people to eat healthier, but time and time I've seen again that they don't teach people enough. And there's other issues that I have with Weight Watchers, like demonizing fats because they're high calories and whatnot. But for you, it gave you structure, which I think a lot of people need. They need that guidance. The points methodology is very similar to what we're doing now with hand portions and what other people do with calories and macros. So there's an element there of tracking your food. So again, we're kind of on the right track, but then things fall apart because clearly it's not sticking because whether it's not sustainable or for you, especially, it wasn't teaching you about your habits and behaviors. So let's talk about those a little bit more because one of the things that really struggled for you is kind of those quote unquote cheat codes, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are some of those cheat codes that you've relied on up until this point that have been constants in your, dietary habits?
The processed foods was a big one. And I've cut back significantly on those and noticed a huge difference. But for so long, it was just kind of like a quick fix for me. And I would, like so many other moms, would like do all the crazy stuff throughout the day, do the crazy bedtime. It's chaos, put the kids down. And like I would just plop in front of the TV and just like eat a bag of chips. And I was able to like somehow make that work on both programs. It would just be like a different form, like a non-fat chip or like a sugar-free Jello, which is like I can't even eat sugar-free Jello anymore because it's like 0 points and doesn't have carbs. But it was like I still wasn't learning how to eat sustainably throughout the day. And I'd also like with Weight Watchers, I'd save up all my points and like I would just like not eat throughout the day and then eat all a big ass meal all at once. And it just like wasn't sustainable. Then I'd probably end up like overeating. So yeah, there was a lot of like bad habits I learned. And I'd also like eat really light during the week and then like binge during the weekend. And it was just like not a good balance at all.
Yeah, and I see that a lot with Weight Watchers is the saving up of points
Mm-hmm.
in order to basically binge later on, and it's not working out for us very well. So where you were actually at when you emailed me So you had reached out and you're like, hey, I'm doing keto. I'm currently on a, weight loss program. I know that they were also using supplements like fat burners and whatnot for you. And you had reached out to me and basically said, I want to be able to eat carbs again and maintain
Mhm.
the weight that I lost. But of course, jumping from, one program to a coach, which as you mentioned was not something that you had done before. Did you have any fears of working with a coach, or at that point were you like convinced this is exactly what you needed?
I think I kind of knew. Like I knew after the keto program, I was like, this was so extreme. I knew in my gut that I didn't want to do another diet again. I was like, I want to learn how to eat correctly. And I see people doing it. And I'm like, why can't I do this? And I just felt like after I learned how one of my friends had used a coach, I was like, this is what I need, I think. And after talking to you, it just made sense. I'm like, yeah, you're going to get me to where I need to be. I had like a lot of skepticism that I would ever get there, which I know we tackled. And it took me a lot longer to get there because some of the habits were so deeply ingrained in me and just I had been doing them for so long. But I kind of knew. I was like, after talking to him, like, this is the right direction to get me to a place where hopefully I will never have to like do a real traditional crazy diet again.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned like diet, right? Like diet is such a weird word these days because it's become so manipulated. So, we talk about diet as in your day to day diet. We talk about dieting like, cutting calories or doing keto or whatever. And I think your version of diet has kind of really transformed
Mhm.
through this process. And of course, when we started, so you came to me and we got started on more the habitual basis. Is that what you expected since mentally you were already on board with very much changing your habits, or were you kind of surprised by the approach that we took?
I was surprised. I was like, I feel like at first I was kind of like, okay, I'm gonna go in and like, she's gonna like help me lose more weight really fast, and she's gonna tell me exactly what to eat and like what to do, which was not the approach, which in retrospect is the right way to have approached it because I didn't expect to work on the habits and behaviors for so long before I even got to a place where I could comfortably do a deficit and do it in like the right way, where it didn't feel like just another diet and I was still doing all these really bad habits. That surprised me more than anything. And I remember we checked in like a handful of times being like, okay, are we ready to transition to a deficit? And I was like, I was the one who kept being like, you know what, not yet. I'm still not there yet. And that surprised me that I was willing to go along for this journey, knowing that once we started, I said, oh, this is like we need to do some deeper work before we actually get to a place where I can be in a deficit. Not, I wasn't expecting it. It's definitely the right approach though.
Yeah. And a lot of people seek out coaches with that thought process. They're like, okay, well, I want to lose weight or I want to achieve a specific goal. I need somebody to tell me exactly what to eat, what to do.
Mhm.
I'll do it. Especially with type A people, we love a plan. We love rules. We love being told what to do and then being told that if we just do them, we will get these expected results. And I think for some people, it can be really shocking or jarring to then have a coach be like, hey, let's start week one. We're going to practice eating mindfully, especially for you as a parent who's like, hey, my kids are crazy at mealtime. I don't know if I can eat mindfully. And what I really appreciate about your journey is you got really bought into the process. Like you didn't come to you, as you basically said, you were like, I was the one saying, I'm not ready to do the deficit yet. I have a lot more mental work to do. Do you know at what part in your journey you bought in to the mental work part of the process where you kind of released that need to diet and the need to actually dig deeper for yourself?
Probably a month or two in. I feel like I was so resistant for so long. I was like, okay, I'll tackle this stuff quickly and like go into weight loss mode because I was like starting to see the scale creep up a little bit as you do after you like finish these crazy diet programs. And so I was starting to like panic a little bit. But then I noticed, I'm like, I know I can't do this again because we kept talking like the late night snacking that took so long to tackle. And I knew that when I did start like tracking my hand portion methods, I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to even get close to deficit numbers if I can't just tackle this one thing. So it started to like click for me. I'm like, oh, I need like the building blocks in place to even get to a place where I can do this in like a sustainable, comfortable way.
Yeah. And I think it's awesome that you recognize that as well, because I think that's why people jump from diet to diet is that they're looking for that next big thing. But a lot of times we're avoiding the really uncomfortable stuff, like
Mhm.
talking about why are we eating. I remember when you came in, you were like, my ritual is to sit and watch TV with my husband and we want to like snack on chips.
Mhm.
And that was almost like a non-negotiable
Yeah.
when you came in. We really transitioned that and kind of said, hey, this is probably something that's actually not serving you very well. And it's probably at the root of why you keep doing the yo-yo dieting.
It was a big one because like we would use it, and I really like had to do that deep like inner work to be like, why am I doing this? It was kind of twofold. One, we needed to make sure my nutrition was adequate throughout the day so that I didn't actually have like legitimate cravings, because that was a piece of it, I realized. And then to break that habit of like this, why are we doing this? It's a comfort thing. It's like that quick dopamine hit. And I felt like I've always said this, I felt like it's been like a therapy session, because it really made me think, okay, what does this is this habit actually serving me? What am I actually looking for instead that could serve the same purpose of relaxation and like spending time with my husband?
Yeah. And I think that's great that you've done a lot of that inner work and really thought into how is this serving me? How can other things serve me as well? And how can I transition it over in that direction? So, from a mindset perspective, what are some of the key shifts that you've made in this journey to get you? So, just to give people perspective as they're listening to this, we worked together for essentially, I think it was about a year before we tackled the deficit. Do I have that timeline right?
It sounds about right, which is, yeah, it was a long time.
Yeah, it was a long time. So we had a lot of undoing to do first and then rebuilding. And so to get to that point, what were some of the key things that you had to change, whether it was shifting mindset wise, physical habits alone? What got you ultimately to this point, do you feel?
There's a lot of new habits that I have now that are just become like part of my everyday routine. Like the fact that I eat 4 times as many vegetables as I normally did, that has just become like a new normal for me. And I'm like, every meal I have, I'm like, how can I incorporate a vegetable? Which is not something I used to do ever my whole life. So that's a new one. Making sure I'm trying to plan ahead as much as possible, which I did with some of these other diets, but trying to balance all of the, macros together. So like making sure I always have like a carb, a fat, a protein, all of that. Making sure I'm thinking about enough protein, especially now that I'm in this deficit. Just like thinking about protein way more than I used to, and just making sure I eat throughout the day, because there would just be times I would normally just skip meals, or like I would be 5 hours into my day and be like, wow, I haven't eaten all day. Just like making that a habit. I feel like there's so many different things I do now. And like habit stacking, we've talked about just like making sure I take all the vitamins at the same time, taking them consistently, and working out consistently. Like I don't know, there's like endless things that have changed in my life because of this. So yeah, it's a lot.
We completely restructured your whole life and basically said, okay, like something's got to change in order to support you. You've done an amazing job of meal prepping and actually getting meals ready for you, because we realized with the overwhelm that is mom life and self-employment life, you were kind of falling to the wayside. It was like you're the last priority. Let's get the kids fed, but then it's scrambling to get you fed. And then that spills over into picking off their plates, snacking mindlessly, having these cravings, and then also not meeting, let's say, your protein needs or your fiber needs because you don't have the food ready. So you did a really great job in the beginning of just even getting your freezer stocked so that you could actually have food ready to grab and go. And I think that made a massive change, but then also focusing a lot on how you were thinking about food and recognizing a lot of your habits and behaviors around picking at foods like between bites or meals or what have you, and then like snacking at the end of your day. I think we've come so far with how you view nutrition, which is amazing. So now looking at, and at some point I want to talk about your workouts too, because I feel like you've come really far with that. But first, let's dig into now that you're in a deficit. I think for many people, they go through all of these diets and they yo-yo diet and they develop this really poor relationship with food. And then going back into a deficit and dieting can actually be really toxic for them and can kind of spiral back into old thoughts. For you, how have we approached a deficit? How have we approached dieting differently for you in a way that you feel like is a healthier approach to weight loss than what you've done prior? And what are some of the mindset shifts that you've had to make as a result?
Yeah, I think because we took so long to get here, it helped the transition be much more seamless because it was kind of like first focusing on habits and then start to just track the hand portion method and then look at those numbers and be like, oh, this is why I keep gaining weight. Okay, so let's like try to get those down and like a little more contained, try to hit those maintenance numbers. And then once I was able to like consistently hit those, it felt actually a lot easier to then just drop some of the carbs and fats a little bit. And I just had to get a little bit more creative with how I get nutrition and like just rework the meals I was already doing. So it felt less jarring that it went instead of going from like, I was going 100% eating chips every day, like cake every 2 seconds, blah, blah, to this like crazy diet versus this approach was much easier. I already had that like solid foundation of much more healthy skills. So it just kind of seemed like I was tweaking what we were already doing versus going into something headfirst with it being a totally new concept.
I love that you said that because I do think that that is how most people approach their nutrition is that crash dieting method. Like, how can I literally completely overhaul my life in order to fit a calorie deficit, in order to lose weight? And it's no wonder why we can't maintain the weight loss afterwards because we've dramatically changed our lives into these habits that are not sustainable because they feel so different versus, and not everybody needs to take a year. I think everybody's journey is going to be different, right? Like you said, you have dieted and essentially struggled with your weight for your entire life. And
Mm.
I always like to put things into perspective for people like, hey, if you have struggled majority of your life with something, we are not going to fix it in 6 weeks. And we might need a lot more time. And some people are going to need a lot more of that deeper inner work. But then also tackling maintenance. I think that was huge for you, for us to learn the hand portion method, begin to implement it, but not put the pressure on slashing your calories. So that way you could be a lot more mindful about how you were approaching things. So we started with, let's just try to hit maintenance numbers. Let's learn what maintenance even looks like. Let's learn what balance looks like. We're not saying that you can't have the chips, but rather we need to recognize how we fit the chips into a full daily diet, right? And then once we hit maintenance, great. Now we can just slowly adjust down to a deficit. And I think that is the approach so many more people could take that would make them way more successful in not just their weight loss journey, but also maintenance afterwards.
Yeah, it really surprised me. Like I've said, it surprised me where I started and how long and again, it really was like self-pacing. Like I kept being like, you know what? I'm actually not ready, which surprised me because if I had thought that when I first started working with you, I feel like I would have given up being like, I have to wait a whole year to start losing weight. Like that's insane. But it just felt right for me at the time when we were going through it. I said, I still have so much work to do that is like beyond going into this deficit because I just knew I was so far from there based on like the habits I was still trying to tackle. So yeah, it was quite a journey. I felt really, really confident going into the deficit at this point, but wasn't expecting it to take so long. Just my journey though.
It's your journey and that's okay. And some people will work on this for a really long time and that's fine. But I think it puts it into perspective of how long should we expect to work on our health and well-being. One-on-one coaching is not this in and out quick 6-week program that we're often trained to believe that many weight loss programs are, and to commit to the process wholly for a longer period of time. You're just going to get way better
Mhm.
results for sure. And there's so many times you would submit a check-in and you would talk about your struggles, but one of the wins that you would always pull from it is, I'm still here, I'm
Mhm.
still doing it. I understand like this process is really hard and there's still areas where I'm fumbling, but like I'm fully committed. And the fact that you stuck with it as long as you have, I think really just shows a testament to your mental growth and whatnot. But in those moments where things were feeling really hard. What motivated you to keep going in this process that has taken longer versus going back to the quick and quote unquote easy route, right? Something that would deliver you quick weight loss results.
And it's funny because like when I first started, I was panicking a little bit. I was like, this is going too slow, because that's how I'm trained to think. I'm like, wait, this is going way slower. I'm like panicking. Should I go back in keto? Should I do like Weight Watchers? Blah, blah. But then I saw like subtly over time that things were changing. Like I no longer felt like I had to take a nap during the day to get through the day. Like I kept noticing these things that I didn't expect to go through this journey. And I was like, I just like overall feel better. And this is weird because I'm used to just like doing these crazy diets and I feel like shit and like I lose a bunch of weight and I don't really love it and it's not great. So I just kept noticing like all these subtle changes in my behavior and like things I was doing. And even though I wasn't losing weight, I was transforming in a totally different way. And of course, my number one motivator is always my family and making sure, as we talked about, like when we first started working together, I have a daughter and I want her to grow up knowing that like how to eat, how seeing me eat the same foods that she can eat. And that was always something that was really important. And I felt like as I was developing these habits, I'm like, these are the things she's going to see me do. And I never want her to see me on a diet or talking about weight in that negative way. So that has always kept me going.
And that's such a strong motivator, is making sure that we give our daughters, our children, our nieces, our nephews, even the boys, like a healthy view of what nutrition actually looks like, because we learn a lot from our parents. And I feel like I've said this before, whether it's on the podcast or in content, but our parents did the best that they could with the information that they were given. And I feel like diet culture was so heavily ingrained for, the boomer generation and the generation after that, right? And then we grew up visually seeing that and adopted our own habits and behaviors. And now that the conversation is really shifting and changing, a lot of people are looking at this and saying, I want to end this cycle. I want to be the role model that maybe I needed in order for my kids to grow up and thrive. And I think that's really, really powerful, because again, with my caretakers, we're always thinking about others. We're always thinking about how can I take care of others, and taking care of yourself first truly is how you can show up better for your kids.
It's true. And she's getting old enough to notice these things now. And even like my husband and I have developed a workout routine. He's benefited from all of this too. And every morning, like we rotate who's working out, and just the way that we're talking about like exercise, and they see us exercise and we say, we're doing this because it feels really good for our body and keeps our body strong. Like these are all things that she's soaking up, and my son will eventually too. But I'm seeing how it's not just what I'm eating, but like all of these habits are just going to be the picture of how she sees food and exercise and all of that.
Yeah. And now that we've transitioned, actually, that's perfect for talking a little bit more about your exercise journey too, because that's been a huge part of this as well. So I remember when you came to me, you said, okay, at some point I want to build up to resistance training. Mm-hmm. At the time, you weren't really working out. I don't think so. We started with walks, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it was so nothing.
Yeah, we were like, how about we get some steps in?
Yeah, nothing.
How has your mindset transformed around exercise through this process? Because as a mom, as you mentioned, it's been really hard for you to carve out time, fit it in, and we've finally gotten you into a routine. So what has transformed up to this point?
Yeah, the exercise has been a big one, because I felt like I was in a rut with exercise, and these other programs like the keto program, I didn't have to exercise to lose weight. And that was the ultimate goal, was to get thin. And so I didn't feel like, what's the point of exercise? Like, I'm losing weight. It doesn't matter. And I was also just like feeling in a rut after having kids. I had lost my momentum. I was really into like power core yoga for so long. And when I had kids, I couldn't go as often. And so that kind of just like killed my momentum. And I never got back into it after I had my son. And so I had reached this point where I was like, I don't know how to start again. Like I feel so behind that I don't even know where to start. And then I was having like some injury with my foot. That was like a whole thing. So I feel like what really ended up tipping the scale were a few things. One was you just kind of helping me. I think it's really helpful to have you as like a third party objective, because I can make all the excuses I want, like, oh, my kids are like up early, they're like up all night, blah blah blah. But I feel like you are really good at putting into perspective, like, have you considered trying to like fit an exercise in here or like here, and in a very non-judgmental way, but kind of questioning and making me question, like, oh, are those like actually legitimate excuses, or can I actually try to find like a routine that works? And you threw out like a bunch of ideas, and it just kind of got like me thinking. And then you helped give just like, I think it was like 10-minute workouts, because I was like, I just need to
Mhm.
start and I don't know how to start. And you just being like, here are 3 videos, like do this 3 times a week, like that kickstarted it. And then my husband and I getting into this routine that you had actually suggested, and I'm like, I don't know why I never thought of this, because our kids are old enough that like one of us can handle the morning routine totally by themselves. So like one of us will wake up, exercise, one person will take the kids, and like now we're in this groove and it just makes sense. And I'm like finally getting to where I wanted to be. But it took a lot longer than I thought. And like, of course, the sickness, like, so we were going through fall and winter and I was sick every
Yeah.
week. But I think now that we have this momentum, I'm feeling so much better about just keeping it going, even through 6 season, hopefully. But yeah, it took a while for me to like get moving. So that moved the needle.
We got you moving, but you really hit a lot of roadblocks along the way. So we got you walking really consistently at your desk on your treadmill, but then you had your old foot injury was acting back up again. And so that limited you. And so all of a sudden we couldn't do that anymore. And then of course, like cold and flu season with children was just a hot mess and a half for you. It was like you were sick constantly, and you could have, right, at any point given up, but we just kept revisiting the topic and saying, hey, once you're feeling better, can we even just start with gentle movement? Is there something that we can do even while you're navigating your foot injury? Can we do exercises that don't involve your foot? Like we found seated chair workouts. We found, I found YouTube videos of women who had like boots on their foot
That's
and
all.
were intentionally making for foot injuries. And all we said was, let's just get you in a routine. We literally just needed to build your momentum, and that's it. So if you had set workout videos that were 10 minutes that you knew you could fit in, that was something that you could kickstart. Then I know I came up with the idea, but I'm not going to take full credit. I got the idea from not fellow parents. I'm like, I don't have kids. So a lot of times I don't know what would work for you guys, but even at the gym that I coach in person, I see parents tag team it. So one parent will come in at one class and then the other parent will come in at the other time. And it's really just they figure out schedules together. And I thought of the parents that I coach in the gym. And then I thought of you and I was like, hey, what about this thing that I've seen work for other parents? And it's been huge because you guys are holding each other accountable. Like you said, your husband has actually benefited from this. Now he's in an exercise routine as well. You guys are using your new tonal, and that's been really positive. And you're actually enjoying resistance training now.
I know. I've literally never like lifted weights like this before, but I love it now. I'm like trying to get stronger, and it's great.
Yeah, you went from we're trying to get you to do 3 10-minute workouts a week to you're like, hey, I'm going every other morning and I'm loving it.
Yeah.
And your consistency has been hitting ever since.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's kind of crazy how far, just like where I started. I just feel like I needed like a little like push finally. And then it's been ever since.
It's been ever since, and I love it. So we've gotten you into a really good path of you're now currently tracking your intake using the hand portion method. You are tracking towards a deficit intentionally for weight loss. You are regularly exercising, and you've completely transformed your health journey and your approach to your health journey essentially. So for you now, like, do you feel like this is far more sustainable going forward? Has that changed how you're going to approach nutrition and movement and health in your future?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it's gonna take me some time to like wean off of the number tracking, and I probably, like you said, I'll probably always do some sort of like light tracking just to make sure I'm eating like enough vegetables and things. But I feel like I'm in a pattern now where I understand what makes me feel really good in my body. And that is so different from what I've done in the past, where I'm eating to feel good and I'm moving to feel good and to like live longer and achieve all these things versus just to get thin. And that has been a big motivator through all of this. And I think what's what I'm going to maintain is like, I feel so good doing all these things, like better than I did any other time of my life. So that alone is like a huge motivator.
And if somebody's watching this and let's say they are in the position that you were in 1 year ago, where they're basically deciding between, should I invest in a one-on-one coach or should I do another diet? What would your advice to them be?
I mean, it would always be to do this. I mean, because like I've been there. And I was tempted to go back because it's such an easy, quick thing. And especially for people like me who are those like type 8 overachievers, we do really well in those programs because we're really good at following rules. But nothing sustained past that once I was done. And I think that is where I had done these like a few diets, I had done all this stuff, and I'm like, this didn't work. Like, why am I going to keep doing the thing that I know is not going to work? And that's what I kept coming back to those first few months where I was kind of panicking a little bit. Like, should I go back to like these diets? Like, I'm starting to gain weight back. Like, this is awful. And I kept going back to like, why give this like a real shot? Because I know the outcome of the last 2 times I've done a diet. Like, why would I just go right back to that? So yeah, that's something I would consider is like, do you want this to be a sustainable change? Like, I hopefully still have a lot of years ahead of me. So I'm in this for the long haul.
You sure as hell are. You're fully bought in. You've been doing it and you've been doing amazing deep inner work, but I also understand how difficult it is to do that inner work and how hard it can be to like show up every day and even just tackle, binge patterns, to tackle snacking habits and really look deep and go, why am I doing this? But on the flip side, how hard is it to keep spinning your wheels and end up back in the same place every single time and kind of looking back and going, why can't I seem to just like keep the weight off? Why can't I maintain the results that I achieve through all of my hard work? It's always goes back to that question of choose your hard. Which hard do you ultimately want to do?
Yeah. And I feel like I just didn't have the tools to get to where I am now. I just didn't have the forethought. I didn't understand why, like, oh, if I just like starve myself for this meal, and it's like all these things that I thought were leading me to a better place, like a better health journey, were just always sabotaging me. And I never really understood why. So without this, I would have never, I felt like I didn't have that knowledge. And there's so much, and I think I told you this when I first started working with you, there's so much knowledge out there. And there's so many people, like influencers out there, trying to share this tip and this tip and this tip. And it was so much content. I didn't know where to start. And I knew I wanted to try something different. I'm like, I don't even know where to start. So it was also helpful having you be like, let's start at this really simple place.
Yeah, it's really confusing out there. There's so much going on and people are overcomplicating it now with like the influencer stuff and people saying like, oh, it's, we're getting overcomplicated into hormone and gut health. And you and I are starting to talk a lot more about your hormone health, but we started with the basics because that's where most people are at. We literally started with, can you eat slowly and mindfully, ideally sitting at your kitchen table if your children will allow it,
Yeah.
Can we eat well-balanced meals every about 3 to 4 hours in your day instead of hoarding essentially your calories for one meal later on? Can we approach, eating out in a manner that's actually balanced? And I think that is what ultimately set you up for success, is tackling all those foundational pieces, getting you feeling really good and confident, and then kind of letting you fly from there.
Yeah, no, I agree. It was a different approach than I had expected. I also didn't expect like all the different aspects of health. I feel like so many people, including myself, focus completely on weight. And like, that's all I cared about. Like I wanted to fit into my clothes again. I wanted to do all these things. But I was so surprised when like the first week we were working together, you were like, well, why are you doom scrolling at night? And I was like, why does that relate to anything? Stop telling me what to do. No. but like I understand now how like I have way better sleep. Like I said, I used to have to take a nap like almost every day. Now I don't do that. Like we've focused on things I didn't expect us to focus on beyond just getting thin. And that to me was such a surprise. I was like, oh, we're talking about hormones. We're talking about like sexual health and sleep quality and like habits of just beyond food. Like, are you scrolling at night and then you can't sleep well? Like all these things. I'm like, oh, this is different than I expected, but it makes sense. It's all like a complete package of health.
Yeah. And even going back to that keto weight loss program you did, you mentioned, I mean, we didn't talk about the details on the podcast, but you were eating literally like 800 to 1,000 calories, you had told me.
Yeah.
Doing keto, you had told me that they weren't even focusing on really the quality of the food that you were having. It was really just slash the calories, and they would kind of shame you if you didn't meet your calorie goal, but that was like the only thing that mattered. And they weren't talking to you about strength training. They weren't talking to you about like moving your body, sleeping, nothing. And so it wasn't solving a lot of the deeper issues from a health perspective that were likely driving, like, right, if we're tired, we're going to have higher cravings, and then we're probably going to snack or binge later on. Like these are things that really are impacted by our overall health. And I think it's so critical for us to actually look into that. And I really appreciate that you started to realize through that process, like, oh, this is actually making me feel better. And when I feel better, I show up in life better.
Yeah, no, it was such a surprise. And I think I told you, like, when I was doing this crazy keto program, I like my period got like super out of whack. I was having these like really insane migraines, or I was going to the ER like every other week. And looking back, I'm like, it's probably because my hormones were all like out of whack. And I remember at the time, I was like, didn't see the correlation between the two. But when I was eating so few calories and not getting any carbs, I didn't realize like how much that was affecting other parts of me. So that was like a big eye-opening lesson that I had once we started working together about how all this stuff is connected. I was like, oh, that's something that was never addressed. Like, okay, let's get that under control.
Yeah. Yeah. So you need a comprehensive health approach. This has been amazing. Do you have any kind of last words for the listeners on anything that they should know about coaching or health journeys or anything that's been transformational for you?
I think
that you haven't addressed already.
Yeah,
Talked about a lot.
I think most of it, and I have, and I think even though you don't have kids, I think it's been so helpful. I think it's almost better that you don't have kids sometimes, because you can look at things from like a very neutral, like third party, person and say, okay, like I know this is what you think, but like, have you considered this? And I think as a mom, I'm like, oh, because I am so involved like in the day to day. And when I talk to other moms, like we're all doing the same things. Like we're all like laying down at night, drinking wine, snacking on chips. So it's actually really nice to talk to someone to be like, but like, do we have to do that? Like, can we find something else to do? So, I think it's actually nice, even though you don't have that experience. Like, I would say the moms are still happy.
I love that you brought it up, because I know that you've seen that I've posted on my Instagram how I am child-free by choice. And, I understand that with a lot of parents, they are not going to hire a coach that's not also a mom, because they feel like that coach might not be able to relate. And I do agree that there are a lot of people on the internet who are child-free who lack the empathy required for coaching parents. They'll be like, well, if I can do it, you can do it. And I understand that my 24 hours are so different from your 24 hours. I even remember when you were telling me about your experience with eating with your kids. You were like, it's chaos. My like, I'm just trying to get my kids fed, and it's really hard for me to eat. And it was an experience that I couldn't relate to. So I group texted two of my mom friends, and I was like, hey, here's something that my client is experiencing right now. I'm really curious, is this your shared experience? And they were like, oh yeah, absolutely. I'm like, how do you eat? They're like, we don't. They're like, just shove things in our mouths. But it was really helpful for me to see that that's a shared experience. But also, like you mentioned, if you're just in a group with a bunch of moms and you're only talking to other moms, they are going to have those shared experiences, but they might not be able to see outside of that bubble. Right. Versus someone like myself might be able to see other options and be able to see what else we could try. And everything that I do try to recommend to you, I'm like, can we do it? Like, what do you think? And you're always willing to try, which I think is even more important, right? We have to be open-minded enough to take the advice of others and see, will this work for me? And then you and I have just always done trial and error. If it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. That's fine. Let's rework it. Let's reconfigure it. But it's still possible to think outside the box with some of that help.
Yeah. And I think you've done a really good job at just challenging things, because for so long I'm like, oh, this is just the way things have to be. And I think that even though you don't have kids, like it's helpful for me to step back and be like, wait, but just because this is our experience with like other moms, and it doesn't necessarily need to be like that. So that's been really helpful.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your experience and sharing your transformation. And I am so stoked to see what the rest of this year holds for you and your journey specifically, now that you're in a different phase, but also like going forward, the continued transformation that you're going to make in this process.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Anti-Macro Podcast. I hope you found today's insights valuable and actionable for your own wellness journey. Remember, true transformation comes from consistent, intentional steps forward. If you enjoyed today's episode and want to stay updated on all things health and fitness, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a new episode. I release fresh content bi-weekly every Wednesday to keep you inspired and informed. And hey, if you loved what you heard, I'd be thrilled if you could take a moment to share this podcast with a friend or family member who might benefit from it. By sharing it with others, you're helping them on their wellness journey too. Keep striving for progress, not perfection, and I'll catch you next time.